Hello and welcome to Study Simplified. I hope all of you are doing well in these difficult times and preparing well for your exams. In this video, I will discuss some important developments in the science and technology for the month of June 2020. This is the first part where news related to space science are covered. However, there will be subsequent parts of this series in the coming days. So let's start. So the first topic is all about the private sector participation in space. Now recently the Union Cabinet has approved the creation of Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, or in short INSPACE, to create a level playing field for the private companies to use Indian space infrastructure. And this is a part of the reforms aimed at giving a boost to the private sector participation in the space activities. So what are the functions of the INSPACE? It will regulate and promote the building of the routine satellites, rockets and commercial launch vehicles or services through the Indian industries and startups. And these activities had been largely the domain of the 50-year-old Indian Space Research Organization until now. The INSPACE will have its own chairperson and board, and it will also have its own directorates for technical, legal, safety and security, monitoring and activities promotion as well. And it will also function autonomously and parallel to ISRO. The overall idea is to let ISRO to concentrate more on the essential activities like research and development, planetary exploration, space-based activities like strategic use of space, while freeing itself from the ancillary or the routine work such as the satellite building, which could easily be done by the private sector or the private industries. Now the NSIL, or the New Space India Limited, which was launched in the year of 2019, will be getting strengthened by this and empowered to work in tandem with the INSPACE, which will enable the private industry to take some of the loads or activities from ISRO, which was basically to launch the vehicles and the satellite production, launch services and the space-based services. And remember that the particular INSPACE will be the second commercial arm of the Department of Space of Government of India, and the first being the Antrix Corporation of India Limited. So what are the significance of this development? Now private industries can use the Indian space infrastructure, thereby creating a level playing field in the satellite launches and space-based activities. These reforms will also allow ISRO to focus more on the new technologies, exploration missions and human space flight programs such as the mission Gaganyaan. Now by allowing the industries and others like the students or the academic institutions or the research scholars, there will be greater access to the space-based assets, which will create a much better utilization of the Indian space resources. Now it is also expected that a large number of jobs will be created by this development in the technology sector, specifically in the private companies. Now it will also enable the Indian industry to be an important player in the global space economy, and India can become a global technology powerhouse by this. Now let's see some brief notes about the NSIL, or the New Space India Limited, which is a central public sector enterprise under the administrative control of the Department of Space of Government of India. Established in 2019, having the headquarters in the Bangalore, NSIL is the commercial arm of the ISRO with the primary responsibility of promotion and commercial exploitation of products and services which emanates from the space-based industries. However, the NSIL differs from the ISRO's already existing commercial arm of Entrix Corporation, which basically focuses on the commercial dealings with the foreign players or the foreign based customers, whereas the NSIL deals with the local players or the local customers or the local private industries. So, what is the way forwards for this development? Now, by this development, the space sector can play a major catalytic role in the technological advancement and expansion of our industrial base. Therefore, the creation of InSpace will work towards a greater involvement of the private industry, academic institutions and research organizations in the India's space sector. Now, the second topic is all about the near Earth asteroid called the 163348 2002 NN4. Now, NASA announced that this giant asteroid is expected to pass the Earth on 6th of June 2020. However, this was discovered in way back in the July 2002, and it is having a diameter of between 250 to 570 meters. And this asteroid is said to be a near Earth object, and it is classified as potentially hazardous asteroid or PHA. Now let's see what is the NEO and PHA. NEOs, they are basically comets and asteroids which are pushed by the gravitational attraction of nearby planets into orbits which allow them to enter into the Earth's neighborhood, and they composed mostly of water and ice which are embedded in the dust particles. They occasionally approach very close to the Earth because they are also orbiting the Sun. Okay. Now, NASA's CNEOS or Center for Near Earth Object Study determines the times and distances of these objects, specifically when their approach is very close to the Earth, with the help of the Asteroid Watch widget. So, what is PHA? PHAs are also asteroids which are having the potential to make threatening close approaches to the Earth. Now, there are some technical terms such as this. If it is satisfying, then it is said to be a PHA. Now, for in here, one thing is worth noting, that this AU or the astronomical unit, which is the distance between the Earth and the Sun, which is around 150 million kilometers. Just remember that to be a PHA, a particular asteroid has to satisfy these particular specific technical criteria. Now, less than half of the estimated 25,000 NEOs that are around 140 meters or larger in size, they have been found till date. NASA's Near Earth Object Observation Program finds, tracks and characterizes over 90% of these NEOs, which are around 140 meters or larger in size. So, what are the asteroids? The asteroids are small bodies in the solar system that orbit the Sun. They are made up of metals and rocks, tend to have shorter and elliptical orbits. They do not produce a coma or a tail atmosphere, but the asteroid belt is a torus-shaped region in the solar system that is located roughly between the orbits of the planets of Jupiter and Mars, such as in this picture of the solar system. One can see in between the Jupiter and the Mars, the asteroid belt lies here. Okay. Now, what are comets? Comets also orbit the sun and they are relatively small bodies of the solar system, and they are made up of ice crystals and hydrocarbons. Comets have highly eccentric orbit as compared to the asteroids. When these comets approach the sun, some part of their ice melts, as can be seen here, and the other materials vaporize due to the heat of the sun. This results in a glowing halo that extends outwards through the space. Therefore, a thin atmospheric tail is formed when they are close to the sun, as can be seen here. Now, what is the significance of this discovery? Now, the comets and the asteroids, they are said to be largely the unchanged remnant debris from the solar system formation that took place somewhere in 4.6 billion years ago. So, they offer clues about the chemical mixture from which the planets are actually formed. And an asteroid hit is widely acknowledged as one of the likeliest clues or causes of the extinction of life on Earth that happened somewhere in the Jurassic period, whereby the dinosaur got extinct from the Earth. So, over the years, scientists have suggested different ways to ward off such a hit by the asteroids or the comets, such as blowing up of the asteroid before it reaches the Earth, or deflecting it off from the Earth's earthbound course by hitting it with a spacecraft. So, what is the way forward? By monitoring these particular potential hazardous asteroids and updating their orbits as new observations, it is possible to predict the close approach statistics and thus their Earth impact threat also. Now, the third topic is all about SpaceX spacecraft, that is a Crew Dragon, successfully docking with ISS. As can be seen in this picture, the Crew Dragon is getting docked with the ISS. Now, on 1st June of 2020, American astronauts Douglas Hurley and Robert Behnken, they flew to the International Space Station ISS, which is said to be the world's only space-based laboratory located around 400 kilometers from the Earth, in a journey that has been undertaken hundreds of times earlier also. But it was the first time that the astronauts used the spacecraft built and launched by the private company called the SpaceX, and the event is being widely seen as the beginning of a new era in the space exploration chapter. Now, SpaceX is the company which is founded by the billionaire entrepreneur Mr. Elon Musk, who can be seen in this picture, who also heads the Tesla Motors. Now, the rocket Falcon 9, which carried the spacecraft SpaceX, is also built by the company SpaceX, and the mission was called Demo 2, in keeping with the fact that it was still only a test flight, which, if successful, would lead to more missions in the coming months or in future. And this particular event generated tremendous excitement among the globe, not because of any special technological achievement, but because of the fact that a private company has facilitated the particular trip. And with this particular liftoff, SpaceX became the first private company to launch people or astronauts into the space or orbit, a feat achieved previously only by just three governments, that is United States, Russia and China. Now, this particular event is widely seen as the beginning of a new era in the space exploration, because this is the first time NASA has launched its own astronauts since the end of its space shuttle program which ended nearly a decade ago in 2011. Now let's see a brief detail about the NASA space program. Now NASA used to have a total of 5 spaceships under its space shuttle program that lasted around 30 years, that is from 1981 to 2010. And in these 30 years, NASA completed 135 missions to the space, particularly to the ISS. Now let's see the 5 pictures of these spaceships, that is Challenger, Discovery, Columbia, Atlantis, Endeavour. These are the 5 spaceships. Now out of these 5 spaceships, 2 were actually met with accident. This is the Challenger accident which happened in 1986, and this is the accident of Columbia which happened in 2003. And in both of these accidents, the 7 astronauts on board were killed. And in this particular accident of Columbia in 2003, Ms. Kalpana Chawla, who is an India-born US astronaut, were also killed among the other astronauts. So after the particular 2003 Columbia incident, the US government decided to close the space shuttle program. So the remaining 3 spaceships, that is the Discovery, Atlantis and Endeavour, they were formally retired in July 2011, despite they were fully fit for many more flights. These particular space missions, they were not just costly affair, but they were also consuming a lot of resources, lot of scientific resources. So the US government decided to open the space vehicle programs to some private players who were promising to make the space vehicles. NASA subsequently collaborated with the SpaceX and Boeing, while in the meantime NASA used the Russian space capsules such as the Soyuz, which can be seen in this picture here. NASA used the Soyuz with the help of this Soyuz capsule. NASA used to send the astronauts to the ISS, which ultimately cost them tens and millions of dollars. So with the Demo 2 mission, therefore is a culmination of more than a decade-long effort of the US government to enable the private players to build and operate what essentially is said to be a commercial taxi service to space, and allow NASA to concentrate more on the important missions such as the deep space exploration missions, and the human space flight missions to the Mars and Moon. So this is the particular development about this Crew Dragon. Now if you want to know more about the Crew Dragon's spaceship and the Demo 2 mission, please go to the I section. There I have uploaded one more video which is much more technical in nature. I recommend you to watch this if you are interested. So the 4th topic is all about China's satellite Micius, which is a quantum enabled satellite. Now why it is in news? Because recently this satellite Micius has sent some of the entangled light particles of photon to Earth just to establish the world's most secure communication network. And this satellite of Micius is the world's first quantum communication satellite, which is launched by China in the year of 2016. And this creates a latest milestone in an effort to create a long range and most secure quantum communication network. This particular technique of quantum communication relies on the quantum encryption, which ultimately depends on the entangled particles of light, that is the photons. So how the system works in the quantum communication network? The photons or the light particles can be entangled in pairs so that the state of one photon is always tied with the another, no matter whatever the distance between them. And this quantum cryptography, it leverages the entanglement to distribute quantum keys for communication. And if there is any attempt to intercept a message sent with a quantum key, then the photons would be altered from their state, and then the keys which binds the photons will no longer work. Thereby the interception attempt will be failed. So that is why the particular technique is said to be much more secure. And the fiber optic cables can also carry the photons, but there is a limitation that it can take the photons only to shorter distances. So the researchers and the scientists, they want to use the satellites. They want to use the satellites to relay the quantum keys between the ground stations. Now the satellites in this picture can be seen that the satellites sent simultaneous streams of entangled photons to the ground stations on Earth to establish a direct link between the two ground stations, which are around 1200 kilometers apart. Okay. And the satellite is just a blind transmitter. It is just used to send the particular entangled photons, and the satellites are not having any information about the entangled keys. So this gave a much more robust and almost unbreakable cryptographic protection without the need to trust the satellites, because if the particular satellite gets compromised, then the communication network will never fail and it will still be established. Until now this had never been done via satellites or at such a great distances, such as 1200 kilometers. Now remember that none of the communication went through the satellite of Micius. This Micius sent just the entangled photons as a convenient resource for the quantum cryptography, and the two ground stations on Earth just used them according to some of the agreed protocols between them. Now there is a growing competition between the world's superpowers in the quantum race, because the disclosure of internet surveillance by the Western governments prompted China to boost their quantum cryptographic research in order to create much more secure means of communication. And this particular technique of quantum communication research can be compared with the effect of Sputnik that had on the space race in the 20th century. Remember, this Sputnik was the first artificial satellite launched by Soviet Union in the year of 1957, and it created a lot of concern among the Western countries. So the last topic is all about the Gateway Lunar Orbiting Outpost. Now recently NASA has finalized the contract to design the habitation and logistics outpost, or in short HALO, for its Gateway Lunar Orbiting Outpost. And this HALO support for the Gateway is a part of NASA's Artemis program that aims to send the first woman and the next man to the moon by the year of 2024. Okay. So this particular contract, which is worth around 187 millions of dollars, has been awarded to the Orbital Science Corporation, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Northrop Grumman Space. By this picture one can see the gateway concept, the gateway, which can be compared with ISS or the International Space Station, which is orbiting the Earth in the low Earth orbit. Similarly, the gateway will orbit the Moon in the lunar orbit. And this is the artist's concept of this gateway. And by this picture, it is seen that by this picture, the particular halo unit or the habitation unit of the gateway is seen, whereby the company of Northrop Grumman has been awarded to make this, to fabricate this particular halo unit. So let's see about the halo and gateway. The halo is a pressurized living quarter or compartment for the astronauts, such as this one. And here the astronauts will be spending much of their time while visiting the gateway module. And this is about the size of a small apartment. And the particular company, that is the Northrop Grumman, will fabricate and assemble the halo for the integration with the gateway's power and propulsion element or PPE by the end of 2023. This is the PPE unit, which is the power unit of the gateway, and the Northrop Grumman will be acting or fabricating this PPE's connecting module with the halo unit. And this PPE is equipped with high power 60 kilowatt solar electric propulsion system. Okay, so let's see about the gateway. This particular lunar gateway is a planned space station just like the ISS, but it will orbit the moon in the lunar orbit, and it is intended to serve as a solar powered communication hub, science laboratory, short term habitation module, and holding area for the rovers and various other robots. It is expected to play a major role in the NASA's Artemis program. But the astronauts will use the gateway at least once per year and not stay around the year like the ISS. And if I compare with the gateway with the ISS, the gateway is much smaller in size, just like a size of a studio apartment, while the ISS is somewhere around the size of a 6-bedroom apartment. And once docked to the gateway, the astronauts will be able to stay there for 3 months at a time. And this gateway will act as just like an airport, because this gateway will provide support for the other spacecrafts which are bound for Mars also, and in between they can resupply things like food and oxygen, allowing the astronauts to take multiple trips to the lunar surface and exploration of new locations across the Mars. Now this gateway development includes all the original 5 ISS partners or International Space Station partners, such as the European Space Agency of Europe, NASA of America, Roscosmos of Russia, JAXA of Japan, and CSA from Canada. Now NASA wants to use this particular gateway as a scientific platform to look back to the Earth and observe the Sun and get a whole unobstructed view of the vast universe. And by studying the geology of the 3 bodies of Earth, Moon and the Mars, the particular planetary bodies that we know most about, we can learn important things such as how similar and different they are from each other, and how the planets and the planetary systems are formed. And NASA has targeted to the completion of the whole gateway unit for the year of 2026, and by the year of 2022, NASA plans to ready the power and the propulsion system for the spaceship. Now, as NASA sets its target on returning to the Moon and preparing for Mars, it is developing new opportunities in the lunar orbit by creating the infrastructure of gateway to provide the foundation for human exploration deeper into the solar system. And building the gateway with the commercial and international partners is a very critical component of sustainable lunar exploration and the Artemis program as well. So the partnership of NASA with international partners such as the Northrop Grumman, the SpaceX and the Boeing companies, it would give ultimately a strategic presence of humans in the space. So this is all about the development of science and technology, specifically the space science for the month of June 2020. I thank you for your time.